Welcome to Circuit 3. This is one of the easiest circuits that we will do. Very, very simple, very straightforward. The very first movement that we're going to do is just walking forward and walking backward over a specific line. I like to pick out any line on the floor. I'm just using the carpet and the rubber matting to go forwards and backwards. And when I'm going forwards and backwards, I start with the right and the left, and then I switch it up to the left, then the right. And what I'm doing here is I'm just focusing on what part of my feet are making contact with the ground. What is making contact with the ground, and what am I feeling as I'm going through this motion? You can always speed this up or slow this down, staying lower, going further apart, going further forward or backwards. Keep switching this up. And I'm doing this until I feel that my legs are coordinated together. I can also do this with a higher intensity if I choose. The next piece that we're doing is basically just sitting up and then coming back down, focusing on torso flexion, the way that I'm pulling myself up with my torso. Also, what I'm doing is I have my knees in various positions. I can do this with a slightly bent knee. I can do this with straight legs. I could do this with my feet flat on the floor. Notice what is happening as you're doing it. Is this primarily in the torso? Is it in the legs? Do you feel your neck working? Do you feel it in your back? Do you feel it in your arms? What is happening? What are you perceiving as you're doing this? Because you don't have to do this any one particular way. What I hope for is that you're trying this in a bunch of different ways to get really good feedback on how you sit up. Standing up and sitting down is a part of this whole process. If you need to do this on a bed, go for it. If you can do it on the floor, go for it. The next part is how I step in and out of the line on the floor, or how do I push back to start. I'm basically just going back and forth. So this is out of phase. So I'm going right and left stomping, as you can see. You can do this at the same time if you want to hop with both feet at the same time. But I'm choosing to push off of the inside of the left foot to feel the whole right foot as I come back to the center position. And I'm just pushing myself back to start, pushing myself back to start. And I can choose to go faster with this if I would like, or I can go nice and controlled, just feeling how that leg is moving side to side. Now from here, I'm going to take this into a straight leg raise. I'm just basically focusing on how one leg is moving. I don't have to worry about one leg staying straight. You can keep it straight if you want. You can even do static holds here if you want to make sure that that leg just is under control and that it feels okay. Notice if there's anything going on in the feet, anything in the knees, anything in the hips, any clunking, any cracking. As you're going through this, if there's any clunks or any cracks, try to hold the position before any of that happens. So I'm going through this with my foot slightly turned in. You can turn the foot slightly out if you want. You can have the leg slightly to the side. Find areas where it's challenging the leg and the torso without any cracking or popping of the hips, knees, or the feet. And that's a really important part of this challenge, is just knowing where you feel okay and continuous movement as a part of this circuit, just to tune back into how you're doing this and how you feel. And here I am coming back up to do the other side of the foot in, foot out. So 2 feet together, 1 foot out, 2 feet together, 1 foot out. And I'm going back and forth as I step, 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 step. So the whole point of this is the coordination of my steps side to side. And I'm just using the inside of the right foot as I use the entire left foot. And I can go quicker with this. I can keep this slower. I can go further down to the ground. I could stand up with this one. The whole point of this is to see how this coordination feels. Are you doing okay with it, or does it feel disjointed? The whole point is to practice it, to see where it takes you and what you get out of it, rather than doing it right. There's no doing it wrong. If you're doing it right now, you're doing it right. So what do you notice as you go through it? Sometimes it helps to write that stuff down. Now I'm going to hip extension. I'm going to show you how to basically raise that leg up in a whole bunch of different ways. I do the straight knee. Sometimes I do a bent knee position. Sometimes I choose to do the bent knee position with the hip in external rotation or internal rotation. The whole point of this, again, is to see, number one, how do I raise the hip up in a variety of ways, and is it okay? So I'm only limited in my hip extension ability into my imagination. Because you notice that the floor also cuts off my ability to go into further hip flexion. This is only a very limited part of hip extension. You could do this off the edge of an ottoman or your bed or a table so that you can also explore further into hip flexion or how that hip bends forward, as well as how the leg goes up into the air. And as I'm experimenting with these different positions, or going to see the debriefing of perception of what I'm going through in each one of these positions, I notice that my hip feels pretty free, although the left side feels more challenging than the right side. So those are some observations that I have as I do the circuit. And if anytime you feel like the circuit's going too fast, you can always pause this recording. Now, the next part of this is just going side to side with the entire body going back and forth. And you can do this where there's a step in between, or you can speed this up by just going back and forth faster and faster. I like to feel the inside of the foot pushing me across as I'm doing this little side step shuffle. And I also like to feel the absorption of the outside leg slowing me down and then redirecting me across to the other side. And this is an outside leg dominant type activity. Again, you can take this by going either faster, or you can get lower, or you can try to bend the ankles more. It's up to you. Again, this is a lighter circuit, so all this is doing is seeing how does it feel going into these motions, rather than trying to go all out as far as a conditioning circuit. Now we're going to go bring the leg out to the side, known as hip abduction. And I'm going to show you a variety of ways of doing that as well. We're going out to the side. You can have the toe pointed down. You can have the toe pointed up. So these are just different hip rotated positions into hip abduction, or the leg going to the side. You can also do it with a bent knee. You can do it with the leg going forward slightly. You can do it by holding the leg up and turning the leg. These are all different positions. Again, making sure that there's no cracking, no popping, that you feel like you have complete control over this leg and extension and inflection, like what's all happening at the knee. And then I repeat this on the other side. If I notice that there's anything crazy going on, I make sure I jot it down. I have a little piece of paper in front of me or a notepad. It's just a very easy way for me to stay in touch with where are some parts of this motion that are challenging. What are some parts of this motion that are pretty easy, that I feel okay with? And can that be replicated when I'm standing up? Because if you notice, my leg going to the side here is very similar to as when I was shuffling back and forth, how my leg goes to the side. So that's why I like the variety of positions, to make sure that I understand exactly what's going on. And the whole point of here is to explore the various positions. Also, how do I feel as I'm coming back up? Is it pretty easy? So now I'm going forward and back. So all I'm doing is I'm decelerating and reaccelerating. So this could be pretty challenging for some people, especially if the knees or the hips are not doing that well, just alternating, trying to absorb and redirect. And I'm doing these for around a minute. The back toe sometimes doesn't feel the best for some people, making sure that that back toe is okay. You're going to see what it looks like as I'm going forward. You don't have to look down. You can look right. You can look left. You can look up. You can look down. You can look at various targets when you're doing this to change how this feels, to see how your balance does. You can also do this. I don't recommend doing it right off the bat with your eyes closed, or you could try one eye closed with the other eye closed as well, to give you some different sensory information. And you can also do this by splitting the arms with a further exaggeration. So the last part of this is going to be how that inside leg now raises up. I'm going to turn the mat so you can see exactly how I do this inside leg raise. I do it by just bringing that bottom leg up off the ground. I can do it with a bent knee or a straight leg. I can also do it by bringing my leg back further or forward further. So here's the bent knee, leg coming up, with adds a little bit of hip external rotation, which is perfectly okay. Does it feel okay? Here's the bent knee. So this also adds some torso rotation to this one because the knee is bent and the hip also deals with some hip external rotation forces. How does this all feel? Does it feel okay in the knees? Does it feel okay in the ankles? Does it feel okay in the hips? Does it feel okay as you bring that leg up towards the ceiling? The whole point of this, again, to make sure that as you're going through this conditioning circuit, that you're also becoming aware of what positions may need a little bit of help. If you know what needs help, you know what to communicate, and you know what to also explore further to see if there's any pieces of the upper extremity that can be linked to the lower extremity so that you can figure out exactly how to recalibrate and retune your body. So thank you guys so much for joining me on the circuit. If you want more work, just replay.